let's get to the NFC North. Excuse me. I think I said South. NFC North. The Packers were in the NFC Championship game last year, so that's why we traveled to this division next. And this was an intriguing division last year. Packers were 13-3. I thought it was a fraudulent 13-3, but 13-3 nonetheless. They cleaned up the division at 6-0, and I thought a lot of what they were able to do stemmed from them really being strong in their division. The Minnesota Vikings, they broke a rule last year, and they're going to pay for it this year. The football gods are coming to collect. I've always long said, you don't have at least a 500 record in your division, you can't go to the postseason. Well, they were 2-4 in the division, but they finished 10-6. And that got them a trip to the postseason. And the only reason they got to 10-6 was because their division played the NFC East, I believe, last season. And that division was god-awful. So they were able to get fat off of the Washington football team, the Giants. I want to say they lost to the Cowboys, but I think they were able to beat the Eagles. So they got fat off the division. And so they're going to pay for 2-4 and sneaking in the back door of the postseason last year. But 10-6 last year, big mark for them. The Bears were 8-8. And, you know, it's funny because I really feel like the Bears' demise was grossly overstated last year. I was one of those people that felt like the Bears were like 5-11 because of all of the nonsense that went on in Chicago last year with their head coach and the quarterback position and all the injuries. I mean, they lost so many guys. Akeem Hicks went down early in the season, like week 3, week 4. They had a bunch of injuries last year that kind of decimated that football team. But they were 8-8. They went 4-2 in the division. Like, they weren't that bad. And I know a lot of people are ragging on Mitchell Trubisky. We'll talk about the Bears here in a second. And then the Lions brought up the rear at 3-12. And whew, man, they started out the season like 2-0. And they went to Lambeau on a Monday night, got jobbed by the referees, and man, did their season go downhill fast or what? They were 0-6 in the division. Matthew Stafford, I broke my back, hurt himself last year, and they were never the same. So let's take a look at this division this year. Start with the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is supposed to have a fire lit under him and fuel added to the fire with the first round drafting of quarterback Love. And so Jordan Love, and a lot of people think he's poised for a massive year. I'm like, he might be, but if I would have felt a lot more, confident about that had they added more weaponry out there. Like, they didn't do anything at the receiver position, and maybe they love their receivers. You know, they might love Valdez Scantling. You know, they might love Equanimous St. Brown. They might love Jake Coomer. I would have loved it if they would have done something, and they felt like they had done something by going out and getting Devin Funchess. Well, he opted out of the season. So I look at the Packers and I say, it's up to you again, Devontae Adams. What do you have? And so, we'll see what happens with that Packers football team. But they've got Aaron Rodgers, and as long as number 12 is still back there firing bullets, they've got a shot. I think they're going away from him as the focal point of the offense, though. We kind of saw that last year. They ran it a lot more, play action fake. We know what their head coach's philosophy is, and we know what tree that he comes from. So, watching that offense kind of evolve or de-evolve, but evolve into more of a balanced attack. They draft A.J. Dillon this year, which kind of signifies that they really want this offense to be even more balanced. So maybe they're taking the football out of Rodgers' hands a little bit more and allowing the ground game to kind of help. The defense was vastly improved, except for when they played San Francisco both times last year. Outside of those 2 games last year, the defense was really good last year. Got after teams. The Smith brothers were absolutely phenomenal, both eclipsing 12 sacks on the year. And so if they can keep that up, they've added some pieces defensively. They locked up Kenny Clark long term. The secondary that was really young last year, getting a year older. I just think this Packers team has a chance to be good again. So much so that I've got them at 11-5, and I think that's good enough to win the division in the NFC North in 2020. Minnesota Vikings, they're a team that's really intriguing. Mass exodus this year. A lot of veterans exiting stage left. No more Trey Waynes, no more Mackenzie Alexander, no more Everson Griffin, no more Xavier Rhodes, no more Stephon Diggs. There's a lot of big shoes to fill. And already we're hearing that they're all-world young elite edge rusher. And yes, they went out and got Yannick Ngakoue. I understand that. But to me, the guy that is still the main attraction defensively is Danielle Hunter. Well, he's trending towards not playing in week 1 due to an injury. Today's practice is supposed to go a long way in telling if this guy will be available on Sunday. I just look at this team this year and I say there are some issues that I have fundamentally with them that they haven't necessarily addressed. And there's a reason Kirk Cousins hasn't beaten the Chicago Bears since he got in a Minnesota Vikings uniform. There's a reason that they went 2-4 in the division last year, because the Packers can all of a sudden get after the quarterback. And it's a reason that the Lions, I feel like, have gotten better and are going to be a little bit more competitive when it comes to Minnesota this year. And it's because I've seen Kirk Cousins up close and personal. I'm a Kirk Cousins fan. But Kirk Cousins is a guy that struggles when pressure is applied. And I think this division can apply pressure on the quarterback. And so when you look at the Bears, the reason why he hasn't had any success in his 0-4 versus the Bears since joining the Minnesota Vikings is because they can get after the quarterback. The reason he struggled and was swept by Green Bay last year, why? Because they can get after the quarterback, and they did at a high clip last season. And I think the Lions have upgraded their pass rush this year, and I think they're going to struggle, are the Minnesota Vikings. You don't subtract a 1,000-yard receiver and all of the guys that I just talked about on the defensive side of the football. Now, I love their safeties. Harris, who they put on a franchise tag on, and, Harrison Smith. I think those guys are really good. They've got a young secondary, a bunch of young corners that they're going to be relying on. That's always scary. Their linebackers are really good. They're among the best in the game when they're all healthy and clicking on all cylinders. So I don't necessarily worry about them at the linebacker position. But getting pressure is going to be paramount for that defense. If they leave that secondary out to dry, they could be in some trouble. And then you look on the offensive side of the football, Dalvin Cook, I think they're going to be fine from the standpoint of the running back position. I saw a lot out of Madison last year. I did not know about Alexander Madison out of Boise State. Watch tape, wasn't that blown away by him? I was impressed last year. And even if Dalvin Cook isn't healthy, he can step in and give them something at the running back position. I think I love Justin Jefferson, and I think he's going to be a stud for them. And I think he's going to step in and be a stud right away. And so you're thinking, well, if you like the offense, you like some of the pieces that they have in the defense, I just think it's a step back type of year for the Minnesota Vikings. Everybody got their extensions. Everybody's not on high alert this year, kind of comfortable. Kirk's got an extension. He's feeling good now. I think the Vikings take a step, and the football gods are coming to collect. You went to the postseason under false pretenses last year with a 2-4 mark in the division. I think you're going to stink in the division again, because I think the Bears are going to be a team that you're going to struggle with, as you have in the past. I think the Packers are a team that you always struggle with, and I think you're going to struggle again. And I think the Lions may be able to even get you this year. I've got the Minnesota Vikings at 8-8 this season, and that's not good enough to qualify for the postseason. The Bears, however, are a team that a lot of people are ragging on. Oh my God, they're starting Mitchell Trubisky. How could they? Look, I've long said that Mitchell Trubisky isn't as bad as people make him out to be. His mama named him Mitchell. I'm going to call him Mitchell. So I've said that, look, he's not the best in the world. He's not the worst in the world. You can win with Mitchell Trubisky. Now, the defense is going to have to play well. They're going to have to run the football. And he's going to have to be more consistent. But I said this before. Let's not act like this isn't a guy that won the division 2 years ago and went, 10-6, 11-5, whatever the mark was. And were a Cody Parkey missed field goal away from advancing to the divisional round. Like, you can do a lot worse in this league than Mitchell Trubisky. That being said, no one's looking to be average at the quarterback position. He's going to have to step his game up. I thought his head coach, Matt Nagy, was on a super power trip last year. He was smelling himself after coming in and having the success in his first year, and he wanted to put a lot more on the plate of Mitchell Trubisky, and they got away from the run, and, the media got on him, and he didn't handle it well. I always have said that you find out the true colors of a person when the pressure is applied, when things aren't going well and pressure is being applied. How does that person handle that situation? And we saw Mike Tomlin handle it one way last year. Like, both teams ended 8-8, okay? And neither made it to the postseason, but you saw Mike Tomlin handle it one way, and you saw Matt Nagy handle it another way. So there's ways to go about handling pressure and being criticized in the media. I didn't think he handled it well last year. That being said, they still got to 8-8. This is still a talented football team. They still got Khalil Mack and a bunch of ballers on the defensive side of the football. That's still going to be a tough defense to go up against when they're healthy. And then Mitchell Trubisky is a guy that I think can lead this offense. In a worst case scenario, you got Nicholas Foles backing him up. And we all know the damage that Nicholas Foles can do in a backup role. Okay, so I think they're going to be just fine this year, and they're going to be dangerous. And they're a team that, if the ball bounces their way, they could be in the postseason. They're one of those teams you don't want to play late in the season at Soldier Field when it's cold. They're going to be problematic for some teams. I got the Bears finishing 9-7 this year, and I think they're going to have a chance to make the postseason. I don't have them making the postseason right now. They're on the outside looking in on what's a really loaded NFC conference, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears are able to sneak in the back door of the postseason with a win or two that we don't see coming. And then finally, the Lions. And keep in mind, this division is playing the NFC South and the AFC South. Not the two best divisions in football, even though the NFC South, I think, is going to be really good. I think that you can sneak some wins from the AFC South. And so this Lions football team, 3-12 last year, not really indicative of what they're capable of. You know, you take your starting quarterback out of the mix for 2/3 of the season. That's the kind of record you're going to end up with. When I look at this Lions football team, I'm not a Matt Patricia fan. You know that. I think Matthew Stafford is good. But yeah, I've never been the biggest Matthew Stafford fan. I think a lot of his numbers are inflated a bit, and never really substance behind those numbers. No wins or nothing really tangible that you can kind of sink your teeth into when you talk Matthew Stafford. But you know, when you look up at the record books, he's going to be at the top of a lot of categories when his career is all said and done. That being said, this is a team with enough talent to compete. I never go into a season thinking the Lions are going to be really good this year. That just never rolls off the tip of my tongue. I don't know why that is. And this is another one of those seasons where I look at the Lions. Every year I look at the Lions and I say, you're anywhere from 6-10 to 9-7. That's usually, and then when they have one of those out-of-body experiences, they go 10-6 and they make the postseason, and then they lose in wild card weekend to the Seattle Seahawks. But that's usually every 4 or 5 years. They're not at that point yet. So I look at the Lions, and to me, they're 7-9. They got 7-9 written all over them. They play in a really good division. They're gonna get beat up in the division like they always do. They may sneak the Vikings, they may sneak the Bears, but more likely than not, they're gonna end up 2-4 in the division, maybe 1-5, 3-3 at best. They're gonna lose some games that we think they should win. They're gonna win a game or two that they should lose. It's the Detroit Lions. It's what they are every year. It's you know, they're one of those fan bases. It's got to be hard being a Lions fan because it's hard to get excited about Lions football, for me at least. I'm not a Lions fan. It's hard to get excited about Lions football because it seems like they've been stuck in neutral for the last decade. When's the last time you looked at the Lions and said, man, they got a shot to win the Super Bowl, or they've got a shot to be dangerous this year? Like, I've never, ever looked at the Lions and said, and this is back in the Megatron days, Evans to Megatron. I never looked at them and said, man, look out for the Lions, man. These boys are dangerous. I feel like even if they make it to the postseason, they're 1-done. Anyway, I digress. So in this division, I've got the Packers finishing first at 11-5. I've got the Bears finishing second at 9-7. I've got the Vikings finishing third at 8-8. And I've got the Lions finishing 7-9 in fourth place. That's actually a really solid division top to bottom, though. You know, if your last place team is finishing 7-9, you're doing something right there. So not a bad division at all.
LouieTeeNetwork.